Monitoring strategies and informing conservation efforts. There's more to do, and the knowledge we build
You like being on Mars?
Hi, sweetheart.
It's San Francisco.
It's coming no more.
Thank you for visiting. My name is Evelyn. I will provide you with your driver. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to come right up to the front now. You're welcome. You're going to take those front rounds forward door now. Have a wonderful day.
Yes. Sit there. Yes. Boom. Here we go.
Hello everybody, welcome aboard the Africa Tram. We are going to talk about some of the stories of the animals out here and what we can do to be allies for wildlife to create a world where all life thrives. But a few safety things first. If everyone can jiggle those doors on either side of you, make sure those are closed. They are latched, not locked, so please don't lean on them or play with that black knob at any time. If there is a medical emergency, there are yellow strips on each side of your roof you can press to let me know. On the front car, you don't have those, so good luck. Joking, knock on the window behind me or wave in the rear view, I can see you, but all of that is only in the case of a medical emergency. Losing a personal belonging besides your child does not apply to that, so if you drop your hat, your phone, your sunglasses, just remember where and let me know after the tour. I ask that everybody remains seated when the tram is moving, but when we do make stops, we're more than welcome to peek up and get a better look. And that is all of that. Now, there's a lot going on over here. On the left side, we got a pretty big habitat. You got some little Thompson's gazelle hanging out, the ones with the stripes, and with them are a few impala, the taller ones. And on the right, we will also be passing by some greater flamingos. But we will see this entire area again on our way back. So this is just your sneak peek. And these are just a few of the hundreds of species that we care for here at the safari park. The safari park is one of the two front doors of the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, with the other door being the zoo that's down in downtown San Diego. We have 8 conservation hubs that are spread throughout the world where we focus our conservation efforts. And on this tour today, we will talk about 3 of them. One is right here at home in the Southwest. Another is the African forest, and the third is the savanna. And those last 2 there are why we get to talk about many of the incredible African animals who live here at the park. Now, one of the keystone species of that savanna hub is the rhino. We have them all over the tour path, but currently on our right side is the Rhino Rescue Center. We got quite a few going on in here. These are all southern white rhinos, specifically, which is the biggest rhino species, and definitely the most social. We got 3 over here to 6 total from what I can see. They love having friends around. They feel a lot more comfortable that way, especially if they have a baby or if one is on the way. We have had over 100 baby southern white rhinos born at the safari park, and we've helped them become the only rhino species that is not endangered out in the wild. Rhinos being a keystone species essentially means if they went extinct or were completely removed from their natural habitats, just about every other species in the area would feel the consequences of that. There's a few different reasons as to why, but one of the big ones is that rhinos basically make way for food for other animals. Because of their size, rhinos are able to handle eating the taller and tougher grasses of the savannas. And by clearing that out, they make way for newer, younger grasses to grow. And just about every other herbivore, but especially the smaller species and the young, really rely on those younger grasses. So if rhinos weren't around to clear out the old stuff, other species wouldn't get the food that they need. On the left here, we'll see a couple antelope species whose young definitely rely on the rhinos in that sense. Looks like we're starting off with a good one. The gray antelope are called hemsbok. That color is fantastic camouflage for the deserts and savannas that they live in, but they have a few markings that kind of ruin the whole camouflage look. They each have their own little purpose though. So we'll look at the ones out in this little pile of dirt here. First, we'll look at the spot right on top of their tails. It's dark, it doesn't match the rest of them. That is a follow me mark. Basically, there is safety in numbers. They do not want to lose their friends, and that makes it really easy to keep track of each other while they are traveling around. They also have the big long dark stripe going along their side. That is an optical illusion. Horizontal stripes make you look wider than you really are, so especially from a distance, maybe a predator sees a hemsbok, thinks it's a little chunkier than it really is, and then moves on to someone who is maybe easier to catch. And then finally, take a look at their faces. They have really stark black and white marks, which is what's called a threat mask, and they use that to communicate. So if they want to seem dominant or intimidating or scare off a predator, they'll put their head up and they'll shake it back and forth. So all of the dark color blends together and it creates sort of a black mask. They're wanting to use that dark color to intimidate other animals. Now, we'll touch on that a bit later with another species. But while we're over here, there are some tiny little springbok up the hill. They do look like the Thompson's gazelle we saw earlier, very similar, but different species. And then closer here, we got some sable antelope, the dark ones. Up ahead, we'll see some pattersons, elands, all very cool. And all over here for a pretty good reason. Reason being, of course, the giraffes. We have 4 giraffes in this habitat. We'll come to these two over here since they're walking around. They are Maasai giraffes specifically, which is the tallest giraffe subspecies. But on average, an adult giraffe is around 17 feet tall. And because of that height, we like calling them the watchtowers of the savannah. When they are fully grown, they can see almost 2 miles into the distance, so they would spot a predator way before anyone else. And the antelope, like these eland, all know that, so they like hanging around. They know if a giraffe starts running, they probably should too. Now, my giraffe fans, here's an even closer look at one of them. This is Go On. He's the male, and he is the tallest giraffe at the safari park, coming in at 18 feet tall. But earlier, I mentioned we would get more into the whole dark coloration thing, and it looks like the examples are walking right on over here. Further up the hill there, those huge dark animals are Cape buffalo. They are easily some of the biggest and baddest on the savannah. They'll come in at almost 2,000 pounds and live in massive herds. So they're not a species that really anyone is going to be messing with, hence the dark color. The fact that they blend in with basically nothing, they do not camouflage, comes off as a warning to predators that they need to back off because Cape buffalo can take quite the fight. Still on that left side, we will see 3 juvenile male Nile lechwe. They're mostly dark brown with a little white spot on top of their back. As they get older, they will turn black just like the Cape buffalo. Clearly, they're not as big. They don't have quite the same attitude that the buffalo do, but they're still wanting to stand out and seem as intimidating as possible. So very cool little species there, but other than them, it's looking a little bit barren on that left side, so we're bringing it to the right for some animals that look like donkeys. They are related, but these are Somali wild ass. At the moment, they are one of the most endangered mammals in the world. There's estimated to be less than 200 left in the wild, so we're very lucky to have some here. And happy they're having a good little breeding season. You may spot 2 babies in there right now, both are doing great. And a third is on the way, mama's due very soon. And, you know, 3 babies may not seem like a whole lot, but when a species is that endangered, every single baby really counts. Now, as we get going up this hill here, you may notice we are heading into a more forested habitat. A little more green, more grass, more trees. That is all on purpose. This represents our African forest hub, and it is where we keep some forest antelope species, so keep an eye out for them throughout. There's some of these small Uganda cob and some much bigger roan antelope. And both of those species have kind of an orangey tint to their coat. Surprisingly, predators are colorblind. They mostly see gray, which means orange and green look exactly the same. So, an animal living in a green forest its whole life gets a lot of use out of that orange coat. If they were more tan or light gray like a lot of savanna antelope are, they wouldn't blend in quite as well. As we finally make it towards the top of the hill here, we will get to stop for a moment. We can take in the view. It will be a great chance up here for quick family selfies, group photos, whatever may float your boat. And from up here we can see how almost this whole valley is just habitats for these animals. The safari park is originally a breeding facility. That's what we were wanted to. That's why we have so much open land, so we can support all these herds of rhinos. We breed every single animal here all the time. That is a bit much, so we do have a lot of bachelorette herds. We will see some examples of each coming up on the left here, starting off with a couple rhinos. Right up close and personal for us, that's a pretty cool look. These are both southern white rhinos, so same species we saw before. These two are younger girls, and we know clearly they're big, but in comparison, look at how small their eyes are. Hello. Rhinos, no offense, have terrible eyesight. The one closest to us, if we made eye contact, she could see me, the other one cannot. But they make up for that easily with their hearing. They have those massive ears that move independently so they can pinpoint whatever sound they need to, which is a little more useful than eyesight when your head is like a foot off the ground. There's not a lot to look at down there. That's a couple of the girls for you. Looks like, oh, maybe they'll keep following, but we're gonna visit some dudes with these two Grevy's zebras. Grevy's zebras are the biggest zebra species. They can get up to around 1,000 pounds, but they are also the most endangered zebra species. Their populations have dropped over 50% within the last 3 decades. A huge factor in that decline has been habitat loss. It is kind of hard to have a nice big population if there is just not enough land or food or water to go around. But that issue obviously doesn't just affect zebras. Habitat loss affects the entire ecosystem, and it is happening around the world, including here in San Diego. San Diego County is part of our southwest hub. The hub total includes the southwestern US and northern Mexico, and many of the habitats in the region are endangered. We can see one of them pretty close on the right side here, but it is all around us in this valley. It is called coastal sage scrub. It will look real familiar to anybody who's from the area. If you've gone out and hiked to coastal San Diego, it was probably through this. But there's only about 15% of it left in the country, which means a lot of local plants and animals that call it home are struggling as well. We have many conservation projects with local animals like California condors, burrowing owls, some mice, some frogs, all kinds of stuff. But we also are doing what we can to help protect the actual habitats. Like for one, through a partnership with the city of San Diego, we have permission to go out into native habitats and collect invasive plant species like acacia and eucalyptus, and then bring it back here and feed it to the animals. So we get some good free food out of it, and we're helping to clean up all of the native habitats. We have also dedicated about half of this property, which total is 1,800 acres. Half of that is just a natural reserve. We're not building there. It's not open to the public. It's just to protect that land and give us a space to research local wildlife in their natural environment. Of course, though, the other 900 acres is the safari park. That is where all of these animals get to hang out and where you guys get to come and see them. Now, take a peek on the right side here because we have found one of the crowd favorites. They do look like longhorns. They are basically the Ugandan version. Up on top of the hill there are some Ankoli cattle. They're not giving us the most fantastic look, but you can still see their horns poking up over there. Ankoli cattle are known for being able to grow the biggest horns out of any cattle species in the world. They can get up to 6 feet wide, which is about the length of one tram door over to the other. If we really want to talk big animals, big horns, though, we are heading back towards the Rhino Rescue Center. So keep an eye out on the left. We should see him again. All along the tram path here, there is specifically only southern white rhinos. There is another subspecies of the white rhino, which is the northern, but the two are in very different places conservation-wise. southern whites have made an incredible recovery over the last century, going from under 100 in the world to now over 15,000. They're doing fantastic. The northern whites, different situation. In the world right now, there's 2. Not 2,000, not 200, there is literally only 2 of them left. They both live in Kenya together, but both are females, so that subspecies is functionally extinct. That's a bummer. That makes it seem like hope is lost for them, but we still have a plan to help them out. It's complicated. We're getting scientific for a moment here, but basically, we have DNA stored from a bunch of different northern white rhinos. We will use that to make northern white rhino embryos, so the beginnings of a baby rhino. We will put those into our southern white rhinos, and they will be surrogates. The southern white rhinos will carry and give birth to purebred northern white babies to literally bring the species back from extinction. And we plan to bring back an entire population, so they'll breed, they'll self-sustain, we can get them back out into the wild, and they will never go extinct again. That is the whole goal of what we do here as the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. We would like to create a world where all life thrives. And that includes all of us, that includes all life that is out in the wild, and all of the life that is cared for. Whether it's down at the zoo or up here at the safari park, which is why it is so important to have all these huge habitats. Like this one on the right in particular is about 30 acres. So it has a whole bunch of rhinos. There's wildebeest, there's Cape buffalo, a few different antelope species, and some common giraffes. We can see them right around the corner over here. Now, their name being common giraffe doesn't necessarily mean that there's a ton of them out in the wild. Their populations are struggling at the moment from things like habitat loss and habitat fragmentation, but they're actually a pretty easy species to help out right from home. You can go to a website, it's called wildwatchkenya.org, and help go through all of the trail cam photos that researchers have collected from the forests and the savannas. That way, you will help them identify individual giraffes so they know about how many are out there and how much help the giraffes are needing. But none of this conservation work and none of these habitats would be possible at all without your support. So I would love to thank you all for coming out here to the safari park today. All the money spent here goes back into the conservation of these animals. Whether it's the work we do here at home in the Southwest or at any of our hubs around the world. By being here today, by coming through one of the 2 front doors of the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, you are an ally for wildlife and are helping to create a world where all life thrives. And now, as we pull into the station here, I ask that everybody remains seated until we come to a full and complete stop. Once again, my name is James. I will be out towards the front of the tram if you have any questions for me. But once we do make that stop, you're going to let yourselves out by reaching down on those right side doors and pulling the black knob forward and then out. And I hope you all have fun here at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park.
Yay!